I told you, the Germans got there at the end. You can't stop them in entering.
You've got German,
Well, I am.
Oh, what a morning with technology.
I know, tell me about it. I had to buy the whole package for you guys, you know.
There you go.
Well, for anybody who doesn't know me, most probably you do now. If anyone is on LinkedIn or social media, I'm a psychologist. Yeah, you can find me as psychshafaq on all the other social media sites, or as Shafaq Ibrahim on LinkedIn. I love actually working in the mental health sector, which I've been doing for the last 10 years. And my background comes from very, very different places. But in general, you know, I've been a former diplomat, I've been a banker, I worked in the hospitality industry. But the last 10 years, I've been working in the mental health sector. And what it has shown me is all these experiences which I've gone through very, very traumatic events as well in my life. Have actually created understanding through the work in mental health on what these experiences meant and why am I acting a certain way, because my way of processing information has always been, okay, I do not like to focus myself on the problem itself, no matter how severe it is. I try to focus on what can I do about it? What is the solution? So that is my approach, which has helped me actually going through this and understanding that what is happening. Recently, I've also been separated from quite a narcissistic relationship, which I didn't actually understand what these elements were, what it actually meant, until I did pursue my psychological career as such, to just give it a name. You know, I could see symptoms, I could see things happening, but I could not give them a terminology as such until I did pursue that career. I did do my degree, and I came out with a much better understanding in not just labeling these things, but categorizing these things for what they are. But in that aspect, it has helped me, the whole thing, the whole experiences, and then working in mental health, in wanting to now help people with my experiences and academic knowledge, which is a combination of both, where I can give out not just advice, but also a comprehensive, you know, way of information to the client, to the people who are suffering, to just help them find their way out of their suffering. So I'm basically a facilitator, creating your bridges, creating doors for you. If you're living in a house with no doors, no windows, I would be the builder who would be building all these little light tunnels for you so you can find your way out.
I can imagine it's a very rewarding job.
Say it again.
Not financially, but emotionally rewarding.
Absolutely.
When you can see people change.
Absolutely.
So like,
Absolutely.
when you start coming to what you are now, see that change. It's like a complete flip at coin. It's brilliant to see.
What people haven't actually realized is working in this field has actually helped me to heal myself. As you said, it's very rewarding, but at the same time, when you can be a part of someone's progression in life, you know, to become better, to feel better, that is something which is invaluable. Money can't buy that. I mean, as a diplomat, I can promise you, I was on a very, very excellent wages. We had a lot of perks and benefits, which people cannot even imagine in their life. But coming out of that and then starting new again, it just put my focus in a way where I realized that I've always been like this, drawn to this kind of field of, you know, mental health, psychology, wanting to serve mankind, just help people to improve their lives. So it is a very, very nice journey to have, and it enriches me with even more knowledge, with more information, and with more solutions to create. You know, the world is a beautiful place, and we can look at it in a negative way, we can look at it in a positive way, but at the end of the day, we are going to die as we all are born. In that way, if I can create some changes, some positive changes, then it would actually fulfill my life, fulfill my purpose.
Yeah.
So back to our topic, PTSD. That was a long introduction.
I was just saying, it's fascinating to chat with. Yeah.
Well, I'm glad. I'm glad you like talking to me. I like listening to myself, surprisingly. Did you actually get to listen to my podcast? You
no,
didn't,
I haven't
did you?
Yet.
The link I've posted on my post.
I never even.
Oh, there you go. Again, shows how good we are with technology.
I know. I know no one goes above my pictures. Whatever I write on the top is so irrelevant for anybody.
Well, I'll definitely make the point to have a look at myself, because my wife's really big on technology, so she'll help.
It's just a link. It's just a link. It will take you straight to that guy's site. He's got like a app. You don't need to download the app, but if you click on it, it would just go straight on. It's just an audio recording. I thought it was video, but then he said, "Oh well, nobody wants to see me." I said, "Why is that? You know, we've done such a lovely video. I thought we were expecting a video." But it was quite funny though. It was on a serious matter. We were talking about crisis situations. But at the same time, it was very funny as well. We did put humor inside, you know, specifically when he was asking me about my age. How do I maintain my skin, for instance, which I get asked very often. So I just had to kind of make a joke and say, "Oh well, it's just Olay, you know. I keep using Olay."
I remember it was called Yule.
Yeah.
It was called Oily Yule when I was a kid.
Yeah. No, it's nice to bring a bit of humor inside. So if you would like to introduce yourself.
Well, I'm Jimmy, James on LinkedIn. I thought I'd use my Sunday name. Everybody calls me Jimmy, don't they?
Yep.
I was abused as a child. Went through a lot of heartache, drugs, drink, fighting, self-harm, risk-taking behaviours. And I lived like that for a very, very long time. Lost jobs, girlfriends, got locked up a lot. And that's about it, really. I took one of my abusers to court in 2014. He got sentenced to 8 years. And when I left, I helped set up, well, co-founded Empowering Survivors on Facebook, which we've helped other survivors and victims from all over the world, to be honest, talk about their stories and just be a listening ear, give advice and support them if they got a place. And then in 2019, we got messaged from somebody who had spoke with us before and asked us if we wanted to start a men's mental health group. So born was Talk&Thrive.
That's wonderful. I mean, I do. Yeah, please. Of course, it's your turn. No, you do first.
I'm Pete. If I'm getting called Pete, it's usually because I'm in trouble. As I said to my wife and my mother. I spent over 5 years in the British Armed Forces as in the Royal Logistic Corps as a driver and regimental police officer. I've been on tours of Northern Ireland, Bosnia and Kosovo. I came out of the military in 2002. When I came out at the time, I didn't realise it, but I was suffering from PTSD and found it very hard to adapt to civilian life. and it was through actually watching a movie that I saw a character in the movie that had PTSD, and it was kind of like a tick box exercise with myself. I thought, oh, I've got that symptom, and I'm going through all the symptoms. So I thought, oh, best get to the doctors, have a word with them. And that afternoon, they sent me to see mental health. They diagnosed me with PTSD. I kind of felt that at the time I wasn't getting looked after properly. So I kind of pulled myself away from the medical side of things and did my own thing. Rightly or wrongly, you know, some of it was traveling. I was doing a lot of security work, both legally and illegally. Yeah, and basically I kind of put myself in a position where I thought I was okay, and it was only 3 years ago where, well, just over 3 years ago, that I had a mental breakdown because of stresses of work, who then was trying to manage me out of my job because they felt that I didn't fit in. And I went to see psychiatric help after having a mental breakdown. I left work. There were unions involved, so there was a lot of stress. I couldn't speak to anyone. Got help from combat stress, and even my GP says I was the worst case it'd seen in a long time from mental health side of things. I've tried committing suicide a couple of times. I've had issues with alcohol, and since I had the breakdown, I spoke to my GP, who helped me do some volunteering, and I came to Talk&Thrive as just one of the guys, basically, to try and help me get into an uncomfortable position for myself, which was being around crowds and new people. And within a couple of weeks, Jimmy were like, do you want to come on board and help us? Because I just felt real comfortable with the guys talking to them.
It was so natural. Within, I think, about 4 sessions, it was taking over. Me and John just sat back and were like, yeah. It was just such a natural getting people to talk, and open up, and you were good with advice.
Yeah. And it just came down to experience more than else. All the experiences I've had in life. So it just seems like even things that I might not have had any dealings with, like sexual abuse or drugs, there was the side of it of the stresses, the PTSD, for example, was dealing, say, if you had to come in front of someone who was saying you were your abuser, or if you're dealing with the alcoholism or the drugs, I could kind of relate with it, but maybe in a different way that you wouldn't usually expect. So I was kind of saying, look, you might not think it's the same, but what about A, B, and C? And there was a lot of similarities there.
I mean, the similarities in that, as you rightly have, detected, is that you have gone through some form of trauma. Yeah. And if somebody else has gone through another trauma, trauma has very similar triggers. It has very similar, aspects. And they can happen in very different way, but they have very similar symptoms, even though people, wherever they suffer on PTSD, with PTSD, wherever they suffer with other medical mental health conditions, there's when trauma is involved in that way, because trauma is often associated with sudden events, with very severe events which happen in someone's life, which are very, very unnatural. That is where these similarities come from, because it's such an intense experience. People then can relate to each other and exchange these experiences. And I'm gathering you two have then, because of this, found each other, even though you're coming from very different places, you're coming from very different backgrounds. Yeah. Jimmy, may I call you Jimmy or James? What do you prefer?
Jimmy's fine.
Okay. So do you suffer with PTSD as well? Because we're talking about PTSD today.
Yeah, I do, yeah. I was diagnosed by a psychiatrist in about 2013, 2012, 2013, something like that. I was diagnosed with it, that and borderline personality disorder.
Okay, okay. And how is it managed at the moment?
I don't take any medication. I like to live my life on an even keel. I try and keep it as level as I can. I very rarely lose my temper anymore.
Which is very good.
Actually researching them, and because all my life I'd lived this certain way. It were drugs, drink, fighting, and then next day it'd be drugs, drink, fighting. It was like that, and I didn't know why I behaved that way. So when that psychiatrist, when she diagnosed me, it sort of, I didn't class it as a label. I classed it as an explanation. And when I started researching what there was, the borderline personality disorder and the PTSD, it explained why I behaved the way I behaved. And by explaining it, it meant I had the options to change it. So I did.
Which is very good.
Turn my life around then.
Excellent. I mean, the first thing, and me as a psychologist, it's always to make the client understand that what the reasons for these things are, or what the symptoms are, you know, what they can work with. Because if you don't know anything and you don't know why certain things are happening with you, then it's very difficult to work with that. It's very difficult to manage or to understand even for yourself and the environment around you, you know, people around you. So it's very good that you did have these diagnoses, which a lot of people don't get. They don't get to that point, and they then live a life of absolute chaos, confusion,
and
relationship breakdowns.
A lot of people who were in cadets with me did. They went down the right path. And some are sadly no longer with us.
I mean, often PTSD itself, which is post-traumatic stress disorder, is often associated to soldiers, as you are, Pete. But it can. We have to emphasize that, as you rightly said, Jimmy, it can be associated to anything. It can be happening to anyone at any time, because it is linked to very, very sudden events, very sudden traumatic events.
Even if you see a car crash.
Absolutely.
You get from a car crash.
Absolutely. It's a very sudden event. It could be loss of a child. It could be death in general, anything. Anything which happens very suddenly, very severely, in a very short amount of time. Which then leaves an impact on our brain as such. So we can't comprehend, or what usually is, if we go through a certain form of, you know, sad event as such, our body then needs time to recover from that. Our mind and brain needs time to recover from that. So what we do is we process these information, these previous experiences, and then try to comprehend these things, try to put these things in a manner where we can understand them, then grieve from them, and then move forward. But when something like this, you know, a very, very sudden event happens, which is so traumatic that our brain cannot absorb all these information quick enough and cannot understand all these things, then often this process in trying to understand these things and going through the process of healing as such, of comprehending these information and working with these information in our mind is often very difficult, because they're so overloaded with so intense experiences that our brain cannot cope with that. And that is when things like PTSD suddenly occur, because we can't explain this, or we don't have time for this. You know, as a soldier, you often don't have these opportunities to go and seek therapy straight after a traumatic event. These possibilities, unfortunately, are not given to us from the society we're living in at the moment, or the system how it is. It would be much easier if we could seek immediate help after such event happens. But unfortunately, it's just not the way how the system is at the moment, which is why all these things do occur very often in very severe form, which is a part as well. I mean, if you're developing all these symptoms in PTSD and then you know, understanding these, which is part of I'm guessing you suffer with insomnia as well.
My insomnia is not as bad as what it used to be, but
Okay.
I do suffer a lot with nightmares.
Yeah,
So
which is
it's very staggered sleep.
yeah, which is nightmares are part of that, and nightmares are often caused by overthinking, by these fears and anxieties, because your brain is still comprehending all these kind of information. And unless you start understanding these events and start you know, looking at these events in a different manner, where what I try to teach, or not teach, but advise my clients is, you can't take experiences away, you know, memories you can't take away, you can't take experiences away, they will not go away. The more you try to push them away, the more they will follow you like a phantom.
Yeah.
So what you can do with that is you can try to work alongside them. So if you imagine they're in front of you, but they're just in front of you and you are on the other side, you're observing them, you're watching them, but you don't let them enter your life as such. So you're okay to having them, you're okay to see them, you're okay to hear them, you're okay to feel them, but it doesn't affect your daily life. That is the way to work with that, in a way where you can manage these things without creating or having these panic events, these extreme emotions which would be created inside you, which then has effect on your physical health as well. You know, insomnia is part of your physical health, where you would suffer with overthinking, you can't sleep properly, or often maybe oversleep things as well. You don't know, you feel exhausted even after a long time.
I've quite literally got to a point, and it, well, one particular time I remember I was having a really bad time of it. You know, I literally had about a week, and we went to visit family. It was my wife's mum and dad. We went to visit them at a caravan, and it was quite a crowded seaside resort. And I'd really pushed myself on. I thought, no, it's a nice sunny day. You know, we're going to visit in-laws. I know I'm going to be safe. I need to relax. And because I'd pushed myself and I was fighting my own physical emotions, we went back to the caravan just to chill out and have something to eat. And I just said, oh, look, I just need to have 5 minutes, you know, by myself. And I sat on the settee, and my wife and the mum and dad were sat on dining room table. And apparently within seconds I fell asleep, and I was just gone for hours. It was like everything had built up and built up and built up to the point of me just totally turning off, because I knew that my father-in-law's ex-military, and obviously his wife knows what he's been through, and my wife knows what I've been through. So I kind of felt in a safe place, and so literally everything just went right and stop. So I literally just turned off, and I just slept for, I think, about 3 or 4 hours. So it's just amazing how the body sort of works.
Absolutely, the computer was overloaded and just said shut down.
Yeah.
Shut down the system.
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, it is good that you're describing you felt in a safe place. This is one thing which is very, very important as well.
Yes.
Because when you're processing all these different emotions, it is important to feel in that safe place, because that's the only way to process these kind of information, to find some you time, you know, just to shut down and just to have a little rest within your mind. If you don't get these kind of times or places, then it can create very severe consequences for someone. So
I think telling people that and the group,
Yeah.
always make time for yourself and do things you enjoy doing.
absolutely. And the time for yourself has to be something which is actually for yourself. Even though you're enjoying your loved ones, you're enjoying everybody else, or you're trying to create these kind of joyful moments, but it has to be something which is joyful for yourself, which is something good to yourself. And as long you have people around you who do understand these things, then they will allow you to have that space, which is absolutely fine. And it's great to see that you did feel comfortable enough not to have this guilt, for instance, because a lot of people do have then this guilt, I have to do this, or I have to please this one, I have to, make myself feel better. You can never make yourself feel better. It's a gradual improvement, which to come out of this kind of black hole as such, if you want to explain it in that way. So it is good that you're giving yourself the time to understand these things. Very good.
Something you just touched on there as well was when you think of other people sort of looking from the outside in as well. When you got those people that do care about you, which is a very important thing. But I found a lot of people on the opposite side of the coin where if you mention PTSD, because of what they've seen on the TV of, say, what's happening in America with shootings, they naturally think, oh my God, he's going to be running around and killing us all if he has a bad day. It's like, well, it's not like that at all.
No.
Yeah, it's that stigma. And
it's the same with borderline personality disorder. People think, oh, he's a psychopath, so suddenly we have to stay away, because that's the picture which has been portrayed in the media. Even if you watch certain films, they always bring up the worst kind of condition which someone can suffer in that way, and would portray it as a very violent kind of action, which is often not the case as such. There are extreme cases, as you would know as well, working now with other people alongside in this field. But it's most of the time, it's not that case. It's a gradual improvement. And yes, if someone is left to his own conditions and nothing has been done, then it can develop into that. It doesn't mean it has to, it can develop into that. But that's like anything. Well, if you go to the doctor and you have like I don't know, broken leg, and the doctor just says, oh, go home, take some painkillers, it will be all good, then your natural reaction will be, how dare you, I'm in such pain, I've just broken a bone, and you just sent me home with some painkillers, ignoring me. So I think the stigma in general, what comes with that is that we don't look at mental health conditions as we should look at physical health conditions. If we go with a cold or virus to the doctor is not going to just ignore us. He will know what we have, and he will then deal with that accordingly. So what I'm trying to do, even with the company I work with now, Mental Health Change, we have collaborated, as you know, with APA as well. We're trying to create this, or break this kind of system in this broken mental health system where we're living in at the moment, and create a line which can help people immediately receive these responses, is that we do need to normalize what mental health actually means. It's not an alien. It's not something you cannot work with. It should be dealt with exactly the same way like a physical condition would be dealt with. And once we normalize these things, the stigma will automatically disappear. People will start understanding, and that is down to education. That is down to kind of taking away the focus from the media to the actual facts, what it actually means. Because the same way how our bodies are formed, our mind and brains are formed as well. They have so many neural inside them which fire from one side to another. It works like, I often describe that to people like a computer. So we are a computer, we are the hardware as such, if you want to see it that way. Inside, we have wirings, which are the neuron inside us, the arteries, the neurons, the veins. And then we have all these software programs. That's our understanding, our memories, our mind. And without actually the fuel itself, so once we plug that in, we wouldn't work. So our fuel is our thoughts, they're our minds, they're the way how we function itself. Our body can't function without our mind. Our body can't function without our thought process. Our body can't function without our memories. So all these things are like a fuel towards our body, which then create this fully functioning machine, if you want to put it that way. And that's what people need to understand, that if this machine is not working, then there will be problems. It's inevitable that there will be difficulties, you know.
Because one of the things that I've learned for myself as well is, since I had my breakdown and I went to combat stress, and all the things that they offered me, they offered to all the veterans who I've seen along the way. And some things help for some people and other things don't. And one of the things that I found for me personally was anything to do with relaxation, anything to take me out of my shell and just relax. And yoga was a big thing for me. I found yoga really, really relaxing and therapeutic for myself. Because the travel that I used to take from Keighley to Leeds is a 45-minute train drive. And one of the, I mentioned earlier, was crowds. I can't stand crowds. I really struggle with crowds. And going through Leeds town centre to get to Royal British Legion, where combat stress is, I knew that my anger and my anxiety would go from there to there, from getting into the office. And when you get into the office, and the staff who were there are absolutely amazing, and they look after you. It's like, right, Pete, do you want a cup of tea? Do you want a cup of coffee? You know, do you want a biscuit? Go with that. And they just totally chill you out, even before you get into your lessons or your whatever it is you do in your meetings. And I always found that I'd go, say, for example, like I was saying about the yoga, we'd have like an hour or two of yoga, and that stress level that was so high had come down so low. And me and West at Lads, we all suffered with the crowds, the anxiety of crowds. And we always helped each other out when it came to going home. It was like, right, who needs to go to a train, who needs to go for a bus? And we all kind of walked as a group to go wherever, so no one would be by themselves. And it got to a point where we all went, actually, so we'll just pop in at a pub and see, you know, because we're round lads and we'll have a cheeky pint. And it was just amazing that we were all able to push ourselves to be in a position where we used to enjoy going out for a pint, and then we couldn't go out for a pint because of the crowds. And then before we knew it, we were all sat at a bar having a laugh and a giggle. And it wasn't that we were going there to get drunk. It was just a sociable drink, you know, just a nice drink. And all of us says, because we felt safe in our bubble and the relaxation that we had, you know, has helped so much that we had that confidence to go into a pub and have that friendly pint. And then I got on the train and went home. And I remember getting home and I said to my wife, well, I'd actually taken a picture and I sent it to her because she was at work. And she was like, are you in a pub? And I went, yeah. And she was like, how on earth are you in a pub? And she couldn't believe that I was actually in a pub. And then when I got home, she went, oh my God, I'm so proud of you because you pushed yourself to do that. And to be honest with you, I've not felt any different. You know, I didn't even think about it. My anxiety didn't go up or my anger didn't start. I felt comfortable going to the toilet by myself, which was really strange for myself, being in that environment, you know, being around total strangers, going to the toilet. So even something as little as yoga, that's relaxation, can help so much with your mind spiritually and physically in some ways.
Absolutely, I agree with you. But bear in mind, I mean, for me, yoga works as well. I do my yoga every morning, but I do it very unconventionally. I just take out the parts which I like, which work for me, and then use them. There's no name as such, which form of yoga I do. But bear in mind, not everybody is capable of doing so. So where for you these relaxation methods of yoga work, for somebody else they might not work. So
of course,
whilst you have identified rightly what works for you, that's how everybody else who is going through this kind of process has to you know, identify their own interests as well, what works for them.
I used to do yoga every Monday morning before COVID. West years. And I really struggled with it. Not that I'm built like a brick. I couldn't bend in any position whatsoever. But I struggled with my anxiety. Even though a lot of the women who went, including SJ, I've known for a very long time, it would go in that room, and I really struggled with my anxiety, but I forced myself to go every week. And it never altered. It never got any easier.
Yes, I mean, there you have the, you know, rightful example actually, that for you it might not work as such. You may need to find something else. So what I would kind of advise someone like you, in you know, if you were my client, is that just identify something which you enjoy. Because it has to be very unconventional. If we keep pushing ourselves to things which have been dictated to us, because PTSD, for instance, as we're talking, has very you know, distinctive diagnosis. They have very certain signs. Yes, a lot of the signs do match to us, but there's a lot of signs which are not listed. You know, it's like a manual which came out of somebody who thought these are the distinctive signs. We're going to put them as a diagnosis, but there's a lot of other things which are involved which may not work for one or the other. So this is the same way if you're comprehending, processing these kind of information and trying to work alongside with your condition, that you find something which you can enjoy. And well, I would like to ask the question, Jimmy, what do you enjoy?
I like nature.
That is wonderful.
Nature in the countryside really keeps me grounded.
Then you have found you're happy. You have found your safe place.
My garden. I like sitting in my garden in sunshine, watching all bees, birds, butterflies just flying about. I'm a right nature person, and that just really chills me out.
And that is wonderful. Then I would stay away, in your case, I would stay away from yoga, or advise to stay away from yoga, because if that's creating a different form of anxiety inside you, then it's not going to help towards you feeling better or you getting better. I would focus then, or I would advise you to focus then more on the nature side, which you do enjoy. And if you feel you do enjoy, then try to relax within that. Try to lose yourself inside. So when you're sitting there, or even if you're walking, try to just focus more on, oh, where's the butterfly going, or there's a bird I can hear, or there's a leaf moving, and there's some wind going through the trees. If you shift your senses towards the things which you enjoy, then it will make your mind, or it will give your mind a kind of relaxation as such, you know. It will try to or you're basically actually reprogramming your brain to focus on the good things in life, which work for you, rather than creating these overly thought process where your brain is just exhausted. It just wants a break.
I know myself as well, when talking about nature, we've got two very large fish tanks, and they've all got their own personalities of fish, and I can spend hours just watching the fish. It's just so relaxing just to watch them. You know, even a couple of them will come to the front of the tank, you know, and literally it's like they're looking at you like I'm watching them. It's really amusing.
You know, the funny thing about fish is, and I'm going to put another joke in my family. Please don't get offended. Any ginger person, don't get offended. So, do you know Citizen Khan?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Every mosque manager is a ginger. His name is Dave. So we associate Dave with ginger.
Yeah.
And because it's so funny, we had a ginger fish as well,
Oh no.
who we called Dave.
Oh.
And because Dave is always so funny, he's got an attitude. He's a very different character in that program as well. That fish was a long hawk shark fish. It's called. It looks like a little shark, but with a long nose. But it was ginger. It just happened to be ginger.
Oh,
So we called him Dave, and he used to look. He used to sit above the fish tank, in the fish tank, at the top, wherever he could go, and just look at his kingdom. And we always said, look, there's the mosque manager. We just have to find Mr. Khan now. So yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's the story about Dave with us.
Brilliant.
So yeah, Jimmy, I haven't heard much about you actually. What have you been doing in your, in your way in working with PTSD as such? I mean, you have briefly touched upon what you do with a group you have created now, and I'm guessing you guys did create like an organization as well. So it's a company.
Yeah, now we're a community group.
Yeah, community group.
Yeah, we're now a community group. So we're getting somewhere.
Yeah.
What is helping you?
Helping others, same as you. That's the best way I can describe it. Living on my own, my mind used to do a lot of racing, a lot of overthinking. I used to sleepwalk a lot. I live by two rules. I don't drink when I've got my lad, and I don't drink when I'm working. So that keeps me from being half coffee.
Yeah.
Because I think if I didn't work and I didn't have Henry, I would be. So it's yeah. I do the social media side of it. I run the groups. We do the radio.
Yeah.
I've got my job. I've got Henry. It gets tiring. It gets hard trying to juggle everything. But we manage.
Yeah.
We've got an to Skipton to meet somebody else at 1 o'clock. Somebody else I've met on LinkedIn. So it's been brilliant at LinkedIn.
It's a great platform, isn't it? I must admit, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I can hear it gave you a sense of purpose as such to come out of your kind of suffering and find a reason to change
into a positive.
Yeah, absolutely. The only concern with you I would have is because I can still hear a lot of pain from you.
I'll always have that.
Yeah, you will always have that, but the pain can be managed, as I was talking to Pete earlier, because you always have to remember that life is not eternal. It can change. And what will happen if it changes? So the sense of purpose which you have been given at the moment, or which you feel, if that sense of purpose is not there for any reason, what is your alternatives? So instead of being too much engrossed in one element, just one thing, maybe it's good to find your inner self as such. That's what I can advise you from my own experiences in general. Because if you find your inner self, you discover your inner self, then all these other things, the sense of purpose or helping others, doing all these groups, talking to others, creating these connections, sharing your experiences, they will automatically come, but they will not be the ultimate priority for you, because they can come and go, and they will come and go. They will not stay there.
It can be hard at times though, because I've had a lot of trauma in my life, and a lot of things trigger me, and I get triggered God knows how many times every day, every week. So, and I still get quite a few flashbacks, nowhere near as many as I did have, thanks to EMDR. Which, have you ever tried?
Yeah.
Have you done it?
Yeah.
How do you find?
I won't. When I did EMDR, I actually felt quite uncomfortable. And it's like what we're saying with yoga, it's not for everyone.
Yeah.
You know, so I actually felt really uncomfortable with it. So I actually, you know, right or wrong, I came away from it. I know a lot of people sort of went, oh, it's so, and I don't know if it was just me not giving it time, but I know of a lot of people that have got a lot from it and have felt so much better from it. But me personally, I found other aspects of doing other things help me better.
So it's horses for courses, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Horses for courses. What works for one may not work for
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, it's often, research does say that often the ones who find themselves with relaxation methods such as yoga and, you know, breathing techniques and so on, which you do, Pete, don't find these other invasive methods as such productive for them or works for them. So that there is a clash there. What works for one doesn't work for the others, because you have found your own method in that. You have found your own ways. For any users, any listeners who don't understand what that means, could you just briefly explain what it is? I know what it is, but just in your own terms, in your own understanding. Yeah.
Eye movement disassociation reprogramming, is it reprocessing?
Wonderful, that's brilliant.
It's because when you have a traumatic event happen, the emotions get attached to that memory. So whenever you have a flashback, the emotions come to the forefront as well. So you'll get angry, you'll get upset, you'll slash something, you'll hit something, you'll do something you regret in that moment. But what EMDR does, and it was invented by an American woman, and she'd had something traumatic happen to her, and as she was walking through these woods one day, she realised as her eyes were darting from tree to tree, this traumatic event were getting less and less painful.
Yeah.
So that was the thought, the great granddaddy of or great grandmother of EMDR. And what it is, you can either use a pen. I preferred the pen method. I couldn't do the lights. I couldn't keep up with lights.
Yeah.
But I did it with a pen, and it moves it from one side of your brain and pre-programs it to put it there, so it's not at the forefront.
Yeah.
It's in the memory side, not at the at the frontal lobe as such. So it's fascinating. I did a bit of research into it before I did it.
Wonderful. You've done a lot of research. I couldn't find no fault at all.
I did a level 3 counselling skills.
Oh, wonderful.
A-level, yeah. So I did a bit of research into different stuff when I was doing that, and I did a lot of research into, I did my presentation on shell shock through PTSD. Yeah, so, and there was a bloke called, I can't remember if he was Captain or Lieutenant Hurst, Arthur Hurst, I think he was called. And he fixed 95% of the soldiers in his care in 24 hours.
Extraordinary, yes.
And he transformed Salisbury Plain into the fields of Flanders. So bombs, destroyed trees, shell craters, trenches, the lot, and he walked soldiers around. Spoke about their experiences, talking therapy. And
that's wonderful.
He fixed loads.
That is wonderful. And we have to emphasize that this is part of PTSD therapy as well.
Yeah, this was for like the great-granddad of PTSD, and there were a lass who did her presentation on using VR. Of course, we were all students. None of us could afford a proper VR kit. So she downloaded the VR. Put some cardboard around it. So when you had it, it was like the VR monitor. And she was on about, well, in time, you could have battlefields in it. You could have all these traumatic events, what people could use to talk about their experiences while actually being back in the experience. I think it was a fascinating idea. I think it worked, especially when it comes to studies.
And that is where it comes back to the processing method. So the aftercare as such, after a traumatic event, if this processing time is not given to the brain, to our brain, then it can actually escalate to other conditions or develop into conditions, you know. So this is the processing time, which then is being kind of recreated, where you can go back, return into this traumatic event or similar kind of setting, and then try to process it while you're living this virtually. So it's a nice method as such, but as we just discovered, it doesn't work for everyone. So there's always different ways to do so. For you, EMDR did work, Jimmy. For you, Pete, it didn't. But just try to focus on your own way of what actually relaxes you. Everyone has a point which can relax you. So for you, nature works. It would be then good to try to, you know, engage more with that, try to take some more time in between. It doesn't always have to be too much, but even if you do it on a regular pattern, and that is what it is, our brain needs familiarity. So if we try to put it in a regular pattern, you know, today I try 5 minutes, tomorrow I try 5 minutes, maybe I increase it after a week to 10 minutes. 10 minutes are nothing. But if you implement that on a regular basis, then it can start creating good changes for you, because then you will be looking forward to these things.
A 5-6 minute walk from countryside. It's only about my prospect.
Is it?
And I'm there. So I like to go walking and biking, and like the job I do at work at the minute. I'm doing a lot of rural stuff. So I'm up in farm and up in hills and that. I love it. It really
That's wonderful.
It chills me right out.
That's wonderful. I mean, I love nature as well. I grow my potatoes every year. I grow my strawberries every year. I grow a lot of things in the garden. I don't have any grounds as such, but I put everything in pots. I never learned gardening, but it seems to be working out quite successful without killing them. So I had quite a lot of I had quite a lot of tomatoes last year in that glorious sun during lockdown. And some other vegetables were, you know, just experiment as such. So if you find these little happy places, then just go for it. Don't think about it. Sometimes if you're overthinking and think, no, I have to do this, or maybe I just feel guilty because I'm not giving this person some time. But no, you are your priority first. You can only look after somebody else if you look after yourself first.
Yeah.
And this is the way to manage all these things. Well, I think we had a long chat. We could just go on forever like this, but our listeners might get bored from us.
But when you've got 3 people so open and honest about stuff, you know, the conversation just flows.
They do absolutely, but we only have that much limited time for our users, so we can carry on. We have to keep them excited so they come back on.
What did you think at radio show last night?
It was brilliant, actually. Yes, it was lovely. It was I would say it was very, very mellow. It was nice. I did enjoy it, apart from that you thought I was a man.
Someone fell asleep, so he never listened to it. I called her Shafiq instead of Shafaq.
Oh.
It's okay. I get that called very often, because what it is, Shafaq is a very rare name. It's a female name. It's very rare. Usually, most men, it's a male name, Shafiq. They've been called Shafiq, so everyone thinks it's Shafiq. But Shafaq actually means that the colors of the dawn, I would say, you know, when the sun sets and you see all these beautiful colors. That is what shafaq actually means.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, so I'm full of different colors, full of surprises. And always here for a laugh.
Yeah, I find humour is an excellent medicine.
Yeah, definitely.
But I find it's, as Pete knows, and Pete will agree with me, we have a very dark sense of humour.
Yes, yeah.
Which is good. It's fine. You haven't seen the German sense of humour yet.
Yeah.
We'll leave it to that. It's been wonderful talking to you. Actually, it's been really delightful, and we should carry on. It meant to be your show, but it turned out then to be my show. Either way.
Yeah, I'd love to do these, but
that is wonderful. No, I thoroughly enjoyed it as well. Maybe we should touch upon some other issues in the future. That would be wonderful, just to continue that. I'm going to introduce my YouTube channel soon as well. I just wanted to gain some more popularity. I thought, you know, the more people know me, I wouldn't have to work as hard to get my YouTube channel known. So we'll see how that turns out. But ladies and gentlemen, I hope you all enjoyed it. You know, I hope it gave you a bit more insight about people, how it works with PTSD. We just wanted to bring a bit more humor in with the lovely two gentlemen who have lived experiences as such. And it's not just about lived experiences, it's about how they're dealing with this matter and how they're finding it, what they're doing about it. So if you have any kind of feedback, if you have any kind of questions, you can just always contact us. It's me, psychshafaq. I'm talking to Talk&Thrive on the Facebook side. Is that right? And you have a LinkedIn page as well.
Emps Empowering Survivors on Facebook, TalkThrive on Instagram, and James Vaughan on LinkedIn, because it's my Sunday name.
It is, yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, wonderful. You can find me as psychologist Shafaq Ibrahim on LinkedIn, or other than that on social media. It's psychshafaq. And I see you next time. I hope you enjoyed it, and we shall see you with another topic next time. Bye.
Bye.
Lovely.